Equipment manufacturers call for bipartisan support on a water infrastructure bill recently passed in the Senate, noting the need for transportation investments to keep the U.S. economy on a competitive edge. Well, AEM Senior Vice President of Government and Industry Relations, Kip Eideberg, he joins us now with the latest insight. Kip, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us this morning. If you would, bring us up to speed on this legislation and what it aims to accomplish.
You bet, and always great to be with you. So the Drinking Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Act of 2021, that's a mouthful, will help address the many water infrastructure challenges that communities, especially in rural America, face. And so the legislation, which you noted passed the Senate with strong bipartisan support, provides a reliable, long-term, and increased federal investment in water infrastructure. And that is key here, the long-term, reliable part. Watershed protection and the protection of water resources and facilities from physical, chemical, and cybersecurity threats. And it is exactly the type of common sense, bipartisan infrastructure legislation that our elected leaders in Washington should be prioritizing. And we urge the House of Representatives to follow the lead of the Senate and pass this as soon as possible.
Now, if you would, speak to the value of investing in the nation's water system infrastructure and, of course, the benefits for equipment manufacturers specifically.
Yeah, you bet. When it comes to our water infrastructure, the need could not be more acute. Earlier this year, we saw the symptoms of the water infrastructure crisis manifest itself in Jackson, Mississippi, where Americans in the 21st century were without water for over a month. And this legislation takes an important first step to make urgently needed investments, $35 billion in total, in drinking water, clean water infrastructure. And it contains a number of provisions that are going to begin to make the water infrastructure funding programs a lot easier for disadvantaged rural and tribal communities to access. And you asked about the impact on our industry. You know, the 2.8 million men and women who make the equipment that builds, powers, and feeds the world. Now, we've talked about this before. They're not just welders, fabricators, and machinists. They are farmers and ranchers, and 1 in 3 of them live and work in rural communities. So any issue that impacts rural America, in this case aging and inadequate water infrastructure, is going to impact our industry.
Now, Kip, what exactly overall are you wanting to see happen as we move forward?
Well, investing in our nation's infrastructure should not be a partisan issue. It is just common sense. And so what we need lawmakers to stop playing politics and to find a long-term, sustainable solution to rebuild and modernize our infrastructure overall. They made a great first step with this bill, the U.S. Senate did, as it relates to water infrastructure. But we need a long-term investment in all of our infrastructure assets across the country. And it's not just because we need modern and reliable infrastructure, but we need to put Americans back to work. And for every dollar invested in infrastructure, between $2 and $3 are invested in our country overall. So we believe that it's not only the right thing to do, but it's at its core a jobs bill, and we got to put more Americans back to work.
All right. Kip Eideberg, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us. We appreciate it. He's with the Association of Equipment Manufacturers on the phone with us today out of Washington.